Welcome to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis. He is president of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax. Stewart, how are you today?
I am super excited for today's show. It's going to be awesome.
It's a big show. Let me tell you what we're talking about. This is great. Current market conditions, the importance of having a team. I love that, specifically because we're going to have a special guest, our Super Bowl MVP, Hall of Fame, Denver Bronco Terrell Davis, and important steps to take before the end of the year. Can we do all that in 30 minutes?
We're going to try to get it done. Let's see what we can do. I'm excited. So if I talk fast, I apologize. I'm just trying to get through it all.
Well, Stuart, I have to ask you a question, obviously. The markets seem to be all over the place right now. What do you see happening currently?
Well, you know what? I think it's kind of more of the same, Cynthia. I think what we're seeing is, incredible volatility up and down. People are kind of hanging on the words of the Federal Reserve Chairman here, Jerome Powell. It feels like back in the Greenspan days where, people were trying to parse. They used to call it the Clintonian parsing of words, where every word mattered. And if we heard one word, the markets would shift. We're starting to see that quite a bit because now we're trying to see, okay, well, how far is he going to take this, right? Yeah. How far is this going to go? And I think this volatility has really changed the way we, handle our practice. It's actually caused our, the firm that I run here in Arizona and in Denver, it actually, has caused me to have to really staff up to handle, way more volume than I would have seen in the past.
Sure. Well, I have to ask you, Stuart, what is causing all of the volatility that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, I think it's just the comments and it's people's fears. I think, there's two emotions that guide people when they invest. It's just fear and it's greed, right? The greedy side says, hey, let's take some risk and let's get rich. And the risky side, the fear side says, I'm getting scared, we're going to lose it all. And I think that delicate balance of emotions is what is really causing, people, all this havoc in the markets. And we're really just trying to find out where the, Federal Reserve Chairman is gonna take this. How far is he willing to inflict this pain?
Absolutely. Well, I should also ask you, we talked a little bit in the opening of the show of how important it is to have a team in place. Let's talk about what the ideal financial team looks like, Stuart.
Yeah, I think, the one blessing about, having this medium to be able to reach out and speak to people at large is that I think people are starting to demand more of their financial advisors. I think, for years, people have been able to, when they talk to their advisor, they're saying, this guy handles my investments and that's enough. And advisors love it, Cynthia, because all they have to do is say, let's make some adjustments here and there. And, if we move this mutual fund to here and there, and, that was acceptable financial advice, right?
Absolutely.
What we've done at our firms is basically taking a completely different approach. We want to take this holistic approach where we do think it's important to look at your investments, of course. We use some amazing money managers. We use one of the largest money managers in the world. We use an algorithm money manager. We have another manager out of Newport Beach, California. Spent 14 years at one of the great bond houses here in the world. Unbelievable, group of money managers. And I think investment strategy matters a lot, of course, especially in these volatile times. But you've also got to consider taxes when it comes to your underlying plan. And I think taxes are the most emphasized part of people's financial plan. And I talk about this all the time, Cynthia, that, I have a tax firm here, both in our Denver office there, our sister company, and here in Arizona. We have our three offices here. We have a Tempe office, a Scottsdale office, and then our Sun City, West Valley office. And, we operate a tax office. And that tax office is not about just doing tax returns for you and filing tax returns. That's really more of a reactive thing. The whole reason we have a tax office, although we do tax returns, we're going to do over 1,000 tax returns this year.
Wow.
But the purpose of it is real tax planning, to understand that, part of a financial plan, it's really important to consider taxes. We also do estate planning. So, our firm was originally founded by one of my really good friends named Paul Mumford, who died unexpectedly, of course, in a private plane crash. But he created asset preservation originally to make sure that people that weren't named Rockefeller had estate plans, living trusts, things like that. And, we continue that legacy today. We offer, not only taxes and financial planning, but living trust and estate planning as well.
Well, definitely talking more about taxes, Stewart. I want to dive into that a little bit further because obviously we talk about how important that is for your clients. Is it an important issue overall that people should be concerned about when planning for their retirement?
Well, yeah, you have to remember, we are in one of the most efficient tax windows in history right now. I'm going to pull up a slide. It's a tax bracket slide that shows you comparisons of where we are now versus where we had been historically. And if you take a look at the picture in red here, in this graphic, the red there is showing where we currently are. Now, at the end of 2025, those tax brackets are going to sunset and it's going to go back to blue into these higher brackets. So right now, we basically have 4 years, including this year. This is why I'm talking with some urgency. It makes sense to really start looking at whether or not you need to do a tax plan, because if you're in that 22 to 24% bracket, which a lot of our clients are, that 22% bracket, if you take a look at the graphic, it's going to go between 25 to 28% when it reverts back in 2026. The 24% bracket is going to be between 28 and 33%. So I think it's really important, Cynthia, to really include taxes. That's why we have this thing, we call it the Roth Conversion Challenge. We set up a website for it called the rothconversionchallenge.com, but it's why we're saying you need to get to your financial advisor, make sure you have a tax plan. If your financial advisor won't talk to you about tax because they're prohibited by that firm, then find somebody that will talk about it. I think it's really important to do that.
Absolutely. And also the backdoor Roth. Can I ask you about that before we go to the commercial break?
Yeah, absolutely. So the backdoor Roth, so a lot of our clients that have higher income, they realize that they're not eligible to contribute to a Roth because they have something called phase outs. Now, what those phase outs are is as you earn more money, you're less able to actually contribute to a Roth. What the backdoor Roth is basically contributing into an IRA or a 401k, a SEP, whatever, converting to an IRA, and then converting again to a Roth. Now, most of our clients don't have to worry too much about the backdoor Roth, but what they do have to consider is whether or not a Roth conversion makes sense for them. And that's why it's important, because remember, we just have 4 years left until this tax law sunset. I think it's really important to consider.
Stewart, thank you so much. This is the perfect time for a commercial break. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
All right. To our viewers at home, we're going to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. We're talking about the importance of having a team today, right? Well, we have a very special treat for you. We have Terrell Davis, Super Bowl MVP, Hall of Fame Denver Bronco. He's going to be here to talk momentarily with us about how important it is to have a strong financial team. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss Terrell Davis coming up.
People are really concerned about outliving their money. Inflation, taxes, volatility in the markets, legacy. That's what people are really concerned about. Listen, I love what I do. When a client of mine can know with total confidence that they're going to be okay. At Asset Preservation, that's exactly what we do. Not only do we look at your investments, we look at your taxes and estate planning as well. We don't leave any stone unturned. That is what a real holistic shop does. Provide a very clear roadmap so that you know it's okay to enjoy retirement. Success is being able to sleep at night. And at the end of the day, what we provide at Asset Preservation is not only the market expertise by institutional money managers that are some of the biggest and best in the world, but we also provide complete advice. You need to make sure you have a plan. What you can expect from us is to let you know the truth about your portfolio.
And welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis and Terrell Davis of Asset Preservation, Wealth and Tax. Terrell, I'm so excited to have you on the show today, and I know that you're obviously a partner with Stewart in a sister financial firm in Denver. Let's talk a little bit about how you got into the field of wealth management. What started that?
All right, how much time do we have? Because
I know.
it's a big story here, but really the short of the long is that as a professional athlete, right, you have a lot of deals come across your desk. You have a lot of advisors. Everybody wants you to invest in something. And as I was going through that, that world, I made some bad choices. Was getting into deals that that wasn't sound. Didn't have the advice that I was looking for. And so once I retired and had gone through all of that, I decided that I didn't want other players to go through the same thing that I was going through. And so I wanted to partner and, get a firm that could address those needs.
Yeah.
And so that's how we created Alpha One. And it really was based off my experience. And number one, I wanted to find a place that was first class and that the people there treated you as such and not just as a number walking in the door, but treated you like a person, an individual, someone that was going to be there and had your best interest at hand. And that was important to me because at the end of the day, you have to entrust someone with your money is doing the right thing for you, not just their own pockets. And so we feel like we've created that brand and the company's here and we're excited about it. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Well, and obviously that's so important that you just mentioned trust because that's the key with everything. Stewart, I have to ask you a question. What makes Asset Preservation Alpha One different from other financial firms?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I have friends all the time that visit Denver, and I don't talk much about our Denver office on our show here in Arizona, although I do have a TV show in Denver that's very Denver specific. We run a company called Alpha One where I'm serving as president. Terrell's our partner there, and I do consider a sister company because we really do help each other when it comes to all of our resources and so forth. And who knows where this is going to take us. We are looking at potentially some sort of marriage of the two companies, which I think will be better for the company. But no, it's an amazing thing to be able to give complete advice, to be able to look at all sides of things and not just look at the investments alone, but to be able to do the taxes, estate planning, and so forth, like we talked about before break.
So Terrell, it's really a one-stop shop.
Absolutely, and that's the one-stop shop is where we the intentions were on that because we didn't want you having to go with us to invest and go somewhere other place to do taxes and all that stuff. So we do taxes, we do estate planning, we do financial planning. So and that was important too because again you wanted to make sure that it was under one roof and you didn't have all these different hands and eyes on your assets and sometimes the collaboration is not there when you're doing it that way and so things fall between the gaps and a lot of times you wake up and like wait a minute what just happened, this team is not talking to my team and so it was really important to have everything under one roof.
Well, Terrell, I should ask you, obviously, we talked a little bit before we started the show today that tax planning is so very important. Why do you see that overall as being such an important piece that needs to be focused in on?
I was always told it's not how much you make, it's how much you can keep.
Okay, all right.
And it really is because, again, grew up in that world of sports. I've seen it all. I've seen guys who, made a lot of money but did not think they had to pay taxes, didn't understand that the money they were getting taxes, Uncle Sam wants his cut.
Of course.
And so they were making, plans off the money that they were doing, going through and trying to say, all right, this is what I have in the bank. Well, no, you don't. Because you know what? You got to pay state taxes, you got to pay federal taxes, local taxes, and it's all coming out of that check. And so to see some of the guys that I, respect and see their hardship, we felt it was really important to make sure that tax planning and it was very important for us.
Sure. And Stewart, you've always been so passionate about tax planning. Let's talk a little bit about that more in detail, if you could.
Yeah, so tax planning, and I haven't talked about this, a bit or at all on TV. I grew up in a very different way. I remember as a child, my dad, he ran his own company and, for years he didn't pay taxes. And I just remembered, when after he passed away, all of these tax debts were left to my mom. And I think that oftentimes what happens is that people, they don't consider it, or they, look, the IRS is having this tremendous amount of funding now. What are they saying? 89,000 new IRS agents.
Ooh.
Isn't that
right?
crazy?
I mean, it's nuts, right?
Wow.
So tax planning is so important to make sure you get it right. And like Terrell said, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep at the end of the day. And I think what's really important is to find out, hey, are we making the right tax decisions? And what I mean by that isn't just, hey, is my tax return done completely or correctly? Are we creating an efficient plan for the future so that moving forward as income taxes go up, which we believe they will, are we setting ourselves up for success, not just today, but for the rest of our lives? And I think it's really important.
Well, Stewart, I'm so glad you brought that up, thinking about the future, because you say right now that we are in the most efficient window in history. Let's talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, right now, taxes are very, very efficient. They're very low compared to where they have been historically. Now, most people believe taxes are going up, and there's a lot of things you can do right now. What we always promise to do is add some value for each show that we have here. And one of those things to add is right now, Warren Buffett always says, be fearful when other people are greedy, and be greedy when other people are fearful, right? Absolutely. And so right now people are scared. And he also says, the most money is to be made when there's blood in the streets, when people are scared. So right now, I mean, how many people look back at 2009, 2010, said, I wish I would have bought more property, or I wish I would have bought this stock in a down market, right?
Me.
Right? Right? And at the end of the day, I think we're entering in one of those opportunity zones here where we're going to be able to take advantage of it. It's kind of like, we talk about taxes all the time. It's like, let's talk about Donald Trump, for example, right? I don't care if you love him or hate him, don't care. I don't want him dating my daughter for sure, but, right? Fair enough. Don't have a daughter, but if I did, certainly would not date him. But the one thing he always talked about was the tax planning that he did. Like, apparently, he just buried his ex-wife, Ivana, on Trump National Golf Course there in New Jersey. Why? Well, guess what? New Jersey has some specific exemptions that basically make cemeteries tax-free. So it makes them immune from certain income taxes in the state there. It also makes them immune from estate taxes, and it also allows it to pass to the heirs, more tax efficiently. So listen, I mean, all the details of that aren't clear. But you don't just normally bury your spouse on your golf course, right? And so usually there's a reason for that. And the point I'm making here is it makes sense to be part of a team that looks at everything. The reason the wealthy stay wealthy is that they plan. They think it through. And like Terrell was saying, he's had experiences where, people have he's seen, colleagues and friends and teammates that have made poor decisions. Yeah. And the goal is just to make sure you have a team that you trust, that you like being around, and you can make sure that they're not going to leave any stone unturned. But just remember, I think it's super important to take advantage of where we are right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to offer the audience a complimentary portfolio review. And in that complimentary portfolio review, what we're going to do is take a look at, does it make sense to convert to a Roth this year and take advantage of this low tax rate? Does it make sense to take advantage of tax harvesting? If you have those losses that you've incurred this year, and you want to make sure, hey, how can I take advantage of this right now and save this for the future? Give us a call at 833-652-7829. Even easier, pick up your phone, click on that QR code. That'll take you to apsitaxes.com. And what you do is just sign up for a complimentary portfolio review. For the first 10 callers, we're going to offer that complimentary review. All you're doing is saying, I need to get a second opinion, but you have to take action today and give us a call.
Stewart, thank you so much. Terrell, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 833-652-7829. We know that you have a lot of questions for Stewart about how to plan your perfect retirement and about taxes. He has the answers for you. We're going to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. I have so much more with Stewart and Terrell when we return.
Right now, the market is a big mess, and oftentimes people feel lost. So while most people are scared, you need to know that you're going to be okay. I'm sure you have a lot of concerns about whether your portfolio really fits you. And if you need help, all you have to do is give us a call. At Asset Preservation, what we offer is a complimentary portfolio review. We can provide that fresh set of eyes to give you that second opinion. You can't get a second opinion from the guy who gave you the first. You want to make sure you're dealing with a fiduciary. We'll give you that fiduciary perspective. If you have a relationship with a financial advisor that you don't entirely enjoy, I think that's a problem, because these relationships are not meant to be short term. They're meant to last a lifetime. You don't want to deal with people you don't like. If you have concerns about your portfolio, you need to give us a call.
And welcome back to the Asset Preservation Hour. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Stewart Willis and Terrell Davis of Asset Preservation, Wealth and Tax. Terrell, I want to talk to you about your younger years. And I don't mean that much younger.
I know. It's
you're
like, wait a minute.
old.
Wait a minute. I'm not that old, am I?
Let's make that clear.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's talk about your years as a professional athlete. What kind of experiences did you have with tax planners and financial advisors? Can we uncover that a little bit more?
Yes, we can. Understanding when you're a player like me, right? I come into the league and I'm 22 years old.
Yeah.
And it's really the National Football League. They did their best to try to provide us with some resources where we can interview financial planners and have some basic understanding of that stuff.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that most players was not interested in that. And I was one of them who I wasn't interested in, planners. So as you go through a process and you make more money, it's really something that you don't focus on, because your job is to go make the money, be the best player you can be, and then you leave it up to other people to oversee the funds. That's not a great plan. And so when I had gone through that, I had some experiences where I went outside of a trusted advisor and I started doing some alternative investing because I thought that was the best thing for me. And, it didn't work out well at that time. But even before then, I remember when I had gone through and had a bad experience, and I thought about when I came in as a rookie. We had a rookie symposium that had some former players there that spoke to us about what we should do with our money. And they gave us all these experiences about what they did and how it turned out bad. And I remember sitting there listening to one guy talk, and I remember thinking, man, these guys are stupid. Like, how do you give somebody this kind of money and just let them just walk off with it?
Right.
And years later, I was in the same boat. I was sitting there, and I didn't go through. I went outside of a licensed advisor, and I was doing some alternative investing, and looked up, and I was like, wow, So everybody can be in that boat. Everybody can have to wear those same shoes. And so as I was going through this, and I've been going through this, it's really encouraged me or inspired me to be able to build a firm and so that I can help younger players not have to experience that, right? It's easy to tell somebody that, but I just want to be able to help them out, and that's where we are now. So,
Terrell, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, Stewart, obviously people sometimes have apprehension to talk to a financial advisor. Where do you think that comes from?
I think that just people are scared of change in general, right? They're doing the ostrich move where they're just burying their head in the sand, hoping things are going to be right. And quite honestly, I think for the last 12 years, Cynthia, a blind chicken could have made money in the market. And, we've seen 12 years of amazing market, and people figure, hey, you know what? All I need to do is buy the S&P 500 index or buy a 60-40 fund. But, that hasn't worked out too well, has it? People that have put themselves into these, kind of set it and forget about it portfolios are the ones that are getting eaten up the most here in these market downturns. So I think it's really important to have a plan. I think it's really important to have a trusted advisor. And I always say, there's a couple things that, a couple ground rules that I set. Number one, I don't do business with people I don't like. right? Except for Terrell. I mean, I'll deal, he's okay, but, he's got to work on the personality a little bit.
I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
No, but seriously, right? It makes it easier to have conversations because you need to be able to communicate. Communication is everything when it comes to, your advisor. All of my clients have my personal cell phone number. They know how to reach me. I don't care if they call me at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night. If they do that, it could be some weird answers they're going to get from me. But, right? but I think it's important, to be able to communicate. You need to be able to interact and know that they have your best interest at heart there.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Total sense. Thank you, Stewart. Terrell, I want to ask you, what is the culture like at Alpha One, and what can people expect to feel when they walk in the door?
We try to make the culture the same way it was when we won 2 championships.
Okay.
And Cynthia, what it is, it's an environment where people are collaborating. They're excited to be there. They show you when you walk in the door. It's not just, again, you're not a number. Like they know we know you by first name basis. Get to understand who you are, care about your family, care about other things and your interest in life, and so. That environment to us is very important because it's one that is you want a thriving environment. You want an environment when you walk in, you just feel like number one, it's a great environment, but number 2, they do a great job for you too. So that helps out that awesome environment. But yeah, it's a great place to be, and that's intentional, by the way, Cynthia. Very intentional.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Terrell. Stewart, I want to ask you a quick question about the face of retirement overall and pensions going away. Are you still seeing some of those? I know we only have about a minute and a half left of the show.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think that retirement is changing. People are less and less able to rely on their pensions. I know Terrell was a couple years short of getting the pensions, right? I mean, had one of the greatest careers a running back could ever have. I tried out for the same team, didn't quite make it, but
you were close though.
He was close.
Very close.
He made it to the third cut.
That's what I thought. I heard that too.
But no, I mean, I think it's really important to make sure you do have a complete plan. And when it comes to pensions, what if you don't make it to the end where you get fully vested in that pension? You need to make sure you have a plan that will survive whether or not you get that. If you do have a pension, some of our local companies at Honeywell or Boeing, for example, you're given certain options. Like, does it make sense to take that lump sum and roll it over to a IRA so you can convert it to a Roth over time and make it tax-free? Everybody's situation's different. There's no one size fits all. And just remember, you can't get your second opinion from the guy who gave you the first. You need to take action and give us a call at 833-652-7829. We'd be glad to see if there's anything we can help you with. If you have any concerns about your portfolio, don't hesitate to call or give us a call at apsitaxes.com, 833-652-7829.
Stewart, thank you so much. Terrell, thank you.
Thank you.
To our viewers at home, most specifically, thank you for spending time with us today. That number, once again, 833-652-7829. We know you have a lot of questions for Stewart about how to plan your perfect retirement. He has the answers for you. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We'll see you back on the Asset Preservation Hour 1 week from today.